to Jesse Norman. Hi, I'm Jerry Van Klinken. Glad you can join me. Today, talking with animals. When Odysseus finally came home to Ithaca after 20 years on the road, he came disguised as a beggar. While he was away, lads from around the island had taken over his house and were feasting on his wine cellar. They could kill him if they knew he was back. Nobody recognized him, not even his swineherd, Eumaeus, still waiting faithfully for his master, except his dog, Argos. Odysseus himself had trained him as a puppy for the hunt. Now he saw him lying on the dung heap, old, flea-ridden, hardly able to move. But when he saw his master, he thumped his tail and dropped his ears. Odysseus shed a tear for him, couldn't stop, went on inside. But the dark shadow of death closed down on Argos's eyes the instant he saw Odysseus, 20 years away. 2/3 of Americans agree with the statement that an animal's right to live free of suffering should be just as important as a person's right to live free of suffering. All Australians grieved when koalas, national emblem, got burnt during the black summer of 2019-2020. Surveys all over the world show the same thing. We love animals. Yet, when it comes to animal welfare, we have a bad case of moral schizophrenia. Americans alone kill more than 8 billion animals a year for food. That's 23 million every day. Plus billions of sea animals killed with hooks and nets every year. Plus hundreds of millions of deer, pigs, ducks, etc. hunted to death each year. Millions more for their fur. You see the problem. If these killings were in some way necessary, they could be justified. It's okay to kill a crocodile, probably about to kill your leg off, but we mainly slaughter these billions of animals because we like the taste of their flesh. Maybe we should try to change the way we think about animals. See if we can separate bad ways from good ways of thinking about them. Some, for example, think animals have no soul, no thoughts, no feelings, machines. I'm talking about you, René Descartes. Animals are machines made by God, he thought, morally indistinguishable from inanimate objects, just like clocks are machines made by humans. Others think many animals might have feelings, but they're not rational like us, which excuses us from having to give them special treatment. Aristotle. Others again, a lot, think precisely because animals do have feelings and can suffer, that we have a responsibility not to cause them unnecessary suffering. There are laws about that. But they would consider it still okay to inflict some necessary suffering on animals that are our property. That pig of mine, he's mine for his bacon. The animal ethics professor Gary Francione says the best way to protect animals is to stop regarding them as property. The law should recognize them as moral persons, no longer as things, no matter how cute and lovable. This principle freed the slaves in the 19th century, might one day free the women in Afghanistan in the 21st, and applies to non-human animals too, says Francione. Ancient Greeks and Romans actually said a lot about animals, some of it pretty radical too, I've discovered. I'm just going to pick one passage from a book by the Roman philosopher Lucretius, written just before the time of Christ. The nature of things is both scientific and beautiful poetry. Why can't scientists write like that today, hey? Lucretius was a follower of the gentle, cheerful Greek philosopher of happiness, Epicurus. Remember him? The Christian Middle Ages distrusted his materialism and nearly let his book rot away quietly. But a manuscript was found hiding in a German monastery library in the 15th century, and when it was translated and republished, it blew people away. It starts off with the most magnificent song to the power of love, which floods the entire cosmos. For you, the oceans laugh, it says. The skies grow peaceful after showers, awash with light. Put that on my tombstone, please, but read it yourself first. It has 6 parts. Animals are in the 5th. Like Francione, it talks a kind of legal language, but in a far more visionary way. It describes how humans evolved from the lower animals, learned from them how to work together, then gradually developed a civilization. There was no creationist intervention. Before they became civilized, humans were just like other animals, trying to survive amidst the brutality in the state of nature. Before I read it to you, let me explain briefly. This passage in Lucretius has been called the animal contract. It describes a kind of deal that humans and animals made with each other to collaborate. No one imposed it on them. Both entered into it freely, hoping to benefit. Unlike the legalese of a modern commercial contract, though, this one doesn't require both sides to be rational, calculating beings. It's instead a contract of mutual giving. It's one of joy, of pleasure. In pre-capitalist societies, such as Australia's First Nations, the exchange of gifts kept people bound to each other. Their gifts were freely given, yet obligatory. Labour exchanged for food, marriage partners exchanged for help in war, and so on. Lucretius uses that idea to include the animals. Listen now to this remarkable passage about how the dog came to live in our homes. He came to us freely because he wasn't good enough to look after himself, and he loved getting board and lodgings at our place without their own labour. Any beast you look upon that drinks life-giving air has either wits or bravery or fleetness of foot to spare, ensuring its survival from its genesis to now. And many other animals survive because of how useful they are to us, entrusted to the care of man. First, take the savage race of lions, that ferocious clan. They've been preserved by courage. Foxes by craftiness, stags, flight. But the dog, steadfast of heart, whose sleep is vigilant and light, and every kind of animal of beast of burden bred, the sheep of woolly fleece and oxen of the horned head, we've taken under our protection, Memmius, all of these, for they were happy to flee from predators and longed for peace, and to feast on food not got by their own labour at our board, which, for their usefulness, we offered them as their reward. That's how we discovered society. First the animals, then human marriage, children and friendship, then cities, technology and music. It started with the animals. Of course, we haven't always honoured our side of the animal contract. Lucretius talks about betrayal too, for example, the war elephants killed in battle. But breach of contract is a big no-no. Still, the animal contract is a good way of thinking about them, don't you think? They did so much to help us become human. We still owe them something for that. Next time, trees.